the mechanisms and processes that set user research in motion. I would actually also say that it's about scaling the impact of the craft.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Notes of Design. To help support our mission spread knowledge, we have a very special guest on today's episode. Let's welcome Brigette Metzler, a ResearchOps lead at Australian Government Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment. Brigette led the User Research Library at Services Australia alongside chairing several government communities of practice. She is also the co-chair of ResearchOps Community, a global community of people discussing ResearchOps. Brigette also hosts a ResearchOps podcast where they have fireside chats with researchers talking all about ResearchOps. In this episode, Brigette had shared great insights on ResearchOps and its importance, and we also discussed on what's the framework for ResearchOps and how can people get started with it. We then discussed on the 8 pillars and common components of ResearchOps and how could researchers implement and scale ResearchOps in their companies and institutions. In the end, we concluded the show by Brigette sharing her insights on future of ResearchOps and the various growth opportunities for junior researchers in ResearchOps. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and on every Friday, we release new episodes with different creative leaders from around the world to help you better understand different concepts related to design. So don't forget to tune in into Notes of Design every Friday. With that being said, happy designing everyone. Hi Brigette, welcome to Notes of Design. It's a pleasure hosting you today on our show.
Thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to having a chat and talking about ResearchOps.
Wonderful, Brigette. So how was your day?
It was really busy. Yes, very busy. I think we've got about 15 teams that we're supporting now. So always lots to do.
That's great, Brigette. So if you could give a brief about yourself to our audience out there.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the Research Operations Lead at the Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment. That's an Australian government department. I also happen to be the co-chair of the ResearchOps community, which is a global group of about 9,000 people, all getting together from 62 countries to talk about research operations.
That's wonderful. So what was your journey into research and how did you start? And what are your tips to the beginners on how to start?
Yeah, well, actually, I think the first thing I'll say is that I'm not really a researcher. So, I do research and sometimes tried out calling myself a researcher. I'm not sure that I feel really comfortable to say that yet. So I've done quant user research, and I've been doing research itself since 2014 only. So that's, recently I had a mentoring session with someone who's about the same age as me, and she said, I feel like I can't get into the industry because I don't have the right experience. And I said, oh, goodness me, my first role in user research was actually in 2017. So not that long ago. What I would say is that you bring a whole bunch of other things to the table. So you don't have to, you can't get 20 years worth of experience just like that. So think about what you bring to the table. For me, I had many, many years working in customer service and then working as a trainer of adults, and I was a data analyst, and then I was an academic researcher. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that built up to make me into someone who can do user research. Tips for beginners: just ask. It's amazing to me how many people are willing to help and answer questions. There's a lot of user research communities out there. Obviously, the ResearchOps community has a lot of UX researchers as well. And so there is a methods channel, for example, so people can talk about methods. There's a mentoring channel. There's heaps of things like that. There's a lot to read. So I would start by reading, asking, being humble.
Thank you, Brigette. So let's begin our episode today with ResearchOps. So what is ResearchOps and what is its importance?
Yeah, so look, it's really easy to answer that question because back in 2018, we got together a lot of people to work out exactly what ResearchOps is. So we made a definition for it, and that is it's the processes, the mechanisms and processes that set user research in motion. I would actually also say that it's about scaling the impact of the craft. So not necessarily to go faster or do more, but to scale that impact up. So if you've done some research, you might have done some slower research, you might want to see how can you get the most out of what you've done. So I think it's important for a few reasons. One is that researchers bear a lot of extra, unseen, hidden work that slows them down. It holds them back, and in some cases also keeps them quiet. So, user research can be better utilised as well and made use of, just like other forms of research. But none of us have any problem with going and using some research that we find at the library. Why would we not do the same for user research? And I guess thirdly, ResearchOps has several highly technical disciplines held within it. So there's knowledge management, procurement, legal and ethical factors, training and capability. If we want to do all that stuff well, getting professionals to concentrate on that allows researchers to concentrate on their actual field of expertise, which is research.
Thank you, Brigette. So what is a framework for ResearchOps and how to get started with it?
So the framework for ResearchOps, there's a few frameworks going around. We all started with the what is ResearchOps. There's a beautiful map that looks like flowers, and that came from all of the data that we produced as a community and going through the What is ResearchOps project, which is a project we did in 17 countries. And we did 33 workshops. So that's there. There's also the 8 pillars of user research, and I think that's a good place to start. When we realised that we needed to sort of show how this fits into the work that researchers do every day, so we had a taxonomy for what is ResearchOps. That's what made the map, and that was Emma Bolton's taxonomy. And so in the board, Emma, Holly, Tomomi and I got together to work out how do we reframe our thinking. So in the end, Emma came up with 8 pillars from those conversations, and that's been viewed 31,000 times now. So I think it must resonate really well, and I think it's a good place to start. But if you're trying to apply that in your own workplace, that's actually a little bit tricky, isn't it? You sort of step back and go, okay, well, that seems nice. How do I do it in real life? So while I've been grappling with that problem, I developed this thing called the Pace Layers Matrix, and that addresses those aspects of it. So the reason it's tricky is that the ops that you need for each research method are actually going to be different. So it depends on your organisation's current focus and where they want to be focusing in the future as to where you get started. So it's such a complex one. I think you probably need a whole other podcast for it. But I would say start with the 8 pillars and then step back and have a think about how does that fit into my organisation. A lot of the time it'll be recruitment, it'll be knowledge management, it'll be governance. Those are some big ticket items.
That's wonderful, Brigette. So what are those 8 pillars and common components of ResearchOps?
Well, there's the less technical ones. So there's environment, which is what does the environment look like at my work? There's the organisational context, the scope of the work. So the scope of your work is going to be different depending on the type of company you work for. The scope is different in government, for example. Then there's the technical ones. There's data and knowledge management. There's governance. There's recruitment and admin, and then there's how to get the tools for researchers to do their job. Those are all very technical, and those are all of the common aspects across all of research. Everyone needs that, even if you don't do user research.
So how could researchers implement and scale ResearchOps in their companies or institutions that they're working in?
It's the $64 million question, isn't it? I think the most important thing you can do is to start. One of the most common things I hear, people call me or want to have chats with me fairly regularly, and everyone feels a little bit embarrassed about where they're at. And I would say to that, having a Daggy spreadsheet is not a bad place to start. So what's important is to start to think about it. Notice what you're doing that's repeatable. Have a think about, can you get together and agree that, hey, this is a repeatable thing. We should all use the same consent form. Why am I producing a new one every single time? Those kinds of things. Start with what I call the small O ops, which is just getting those templates, tools and guides in place. And then you can start to think about actual scale, which requires that really strategic approach, looking at the scope and career paths and all those kinds of things.
So Brigette, if you could please tell us about what is user research libraries and how these libraries help and in the organizations?
Yeah, sure. So I do love a good library. I would never have guessed I would turn out to be almost like a librarian. As a kid, I wanted to be a librarian, and here I am. So user research libraries are an interesting thing. In the ResearchOps community in 2019 and 20, we did a project actually, which we're still writing up because COVID and everything else that happens just makes everything take forever. But anyway, we did a project in looking at research repositories and research libraries and what's the state of the practice in the world. And there are some interesting things that we learned that I can talk to you about. I think, first of all, I am definitely of the opinion that having a user research library radically transforms how you think about user research. And I think we underestimate it. And I think it's great that we underestimate it because people just let it happen. Because they don't know that actually they're about to change their entire world. And it can change in really interesting ways. I'm really interested in change and transformation. And so I do like the fact that we can so easily change people's minds. And so how it does change an organisation is, the first thing is when we do user research, we tend to just do some research and then we hand over the findings and the insights. We might use that to deliver something. We might, go through a service design delivery process to, do discovery and alpha, beta, and live and produce a thing. And then we never look at the research ever again. And why is that? So are we saying that user research has no value? I don't think so. And I think that that's one of the things that research operations people, they're the people who really believe in your work. So research ops people are like your hidden in your back pocket superstars because we 100% believe in what you do. So what we want to see is we want to see that people can access good research, done good research. We want to get it out to people and we want to be able to share it and use it again if we need to. Using it again is a novel thing. And so one of the ways it transforms is, first of all, you tell a researcher that someone else could read their research in 4 years' time and they're not going to know anything about it. And that changes how you think about what you're writing down. It changes how you think about the research that you're doing. And it can open up some interesting conversations with researchers about quality and the time that they have to do good work. Because if you are going to invest in it, then maybe actually we should take the time. Maybe we shouldn't be doing research in a day. Maybe we should take a little longer. Can you refer to research again and reuse it? Should you refer to research again and reuse it? All of those questions come up. There's a fabulous little thing called research shelf life. And, how long should we keep a piece of research and how long should we be referring to it again? And libraries open up all of that stuff. From a business perspective, it's radically transformational because you suddenly pay a lot of attention to the way the research is being picked up, used and consumed. And the thing that I've discovered, my previous role in a previous job was actually working with my team to design and build and run a user research library. And the thing that we discovered was that user research is not very user-centered. The people who are reading the research, who are consuming it, tend not to be researchers. And so they'll often read a piece of research and go, okay, well, this is fine. Now what do I do? And so if you have a library, they have someone to ask and go back to them and say, oh, hey, so I got all the research, but now I don't know what to do with it. And so that opens up new avenues of understanding how people do knowledge transfer. So there's actually a whole academic field out there called knowledge transfer. You can go read about it. And it is a process like science communication. How do we get people to understand what it is that we're trying to say? And so having that attention to that end of the pipeline of user research is interesting as well and can produce, new ways of developing work. So like one of the things I've noticed, for example, over the years is that one of the most powerful things you can do is actually to produce a video. So journey maps are difficult to consume, but you watch a person actually going through a full process. That's really compelling. You can see what it is you need to do. Any person, even without research literacy, can come to that and say, this is what we need to do. So I think they're transformational. There's a cost. There's a hefty cost involved in doing it. So you have to be ready. I would say could start with a spreadsheet. if you're a little team of one, start with a spreadsheet and a little database and use it for yourself. If you are starting to look at how you want to share research and share it out, and you've got a largish kind of team working to an organisation, then looking at that pipeline of research, and are we building a library for our researchers? Are we building a library for consumers of research? What are we doing here? So if you are in a big-ish organisation like I'm in right now, then I want to get that research out to the whole organisation. And so I need a mechanism to do that. And I need it to be, user-friendly, have a good interface and all of those good user-centred design types of things. So that's where you end up doing a whole bunch of research on researchers and research on people who consume research. It's all very meta.
Thank you so much, Brigette. So what are the future of research ops and various growth opportunities for junior researchers in this field?
Look, I think the future is very bright. I think the marvellous thing about ResearchOps is it's a really multidisciplinary field. I came to it because I had been doing work in metadata management and data architecture, and I had an interest in knowledge management. I had an interest in research. So you can have a really broad spectrum of skills. Whenever I've done induction with someone and brought them into the team, I've actually said to them, look, whatever it is that you want to do in life, the stuff that gets you out of bed in the morning, you're probably going to be able to find that in a ResearchOps team. So you tell me what gets you out of bed in the morning and I'll find you the right job within ResearchOps. So there's a lot there. Growth opportunities, I think ResearchOps is growing and growing and growing. So if you're interested in it, certainly go into it. I'd say there are two different paths there. There's a research field and there's a research operations field, and they're quite different.
Thank you, Brigette, for sharing all these wonderful insights with us. So could you please share with us, how does your typical day look like, or any interesting stories?
Yes. So I don't know if you've noticed that the 8 pillars have about 4 pillars that are all about people, and then there's 4 pillars that are pretty much all about tech. So my day, I'm supporting 15 different teams doing research. A lot of my day is meetings and talking to people. So today, for example, I had a conversation about privacy impact assessments, and I had a conversation with someone else about governance, and I had a conversation with someone about tools. We had a bunch of people who joined who needed access to tools. I gave them the access and then, let them know these are the rules, and here's some how-tos, and here's a little guide. I often do a little ResearchOps induction. Here's our ways of working. We're building a handbook, for example, for research and operations in the department. It's actually going to be public. You'll be able to find it on GitHub. So it's exciting. But so when people come in, we need to sort of say, here's all those tools, templates and guides. This is what we can do for you. So I did a bit of that today. I was facilitating a little bit in a workshop and provided some tech support today. I received a request for some research, and so went around and had a chat to a whole bunch of people to find lots of different types of research resources. And what else did I do today? I put together some work on a maturity model for a research library. Have I got any interesting stories? Let me think. I think Kate Towsey, who started the ResearchOps community, probably has the most interesting one for ResearchOps, which is she has Cake Ops as an actual job. It's one of the tasks that you do in a research operations team. So a lot of, as I said, there's a whole bunch of people working there looking after people and making sure that they're doing okay. And so part of that is celebrating. And how do we operationalize celebrating when there's so many people spread across so many areas? So she has Cake Ops. I think that's lovely. I think my stories are probably not as interesting. More about how research operations really sort of can transform people's ideas of user research is and human-centered design and that sort of stuff. So there's a favourite thing I have seen where someone in the ResearchOps community had a library, and they were able to share a video safely. So, human research has so many rules about how you share personally identifiable information. And so they had a platform where they could actually share a video, and they were able to show that to the CEO, and the CEO saw the video and went, right, let's change that. And then changed it straight away. They were able to go back to the research participant and say, you did this in this company and now you've just, you've changed the lives of millions of people. That's a nice story.
That's wonderful, Brigette. Thank you for sharing all these great insights with us. So let's conclude this show by you recommending 3 favorite books of yours, also people who inspire you the most in this space.
Okay. Well, people who inspire me, I think Maiki Clip. So her name is Maike is her first name, and Clip Klip. She is a research lead for the Dutch government, I think it is, and she's been using the 8 pillars of user research to inform her strategies for scale for research for about 5 years, and she's been blogging it the whole time. I think if you want to look up anything, I would look up that. I really like Kim Porter's work. She's been doing lots of work on research operations and sharing quite a bit on her blog. And she's also been doing some translations in the ResearchOps community, which I'm very grateful. People who inspire me. There are, the ResearchOps community has, as I said, about 9,000 individuals in it, and each individual inspires me every day. They get in together, someone has a problem, someone jumps in and says, here's what I've been doing, let's jump on a call and see if we can work it out. And I think that openness and willingness to, we have this value in the community, which is to put in more than you take out. And the fact that everyone lives that is just, I find it really humbling. It kind of makes me want to cry just about every day watching that. And so I think the people in the community inspire me. Books. Well, there aren't that many books on research operations. So I'll say there's a few really good ones in relation to architectures for knowledge management. One I really like is there is an article on pace layers for vocabularies, and so you can apply the same sorts of approaches as I do to your actual vocabulary. So how do you think about the way you structure a library system? You can sort of think about it in terms of the things that don't change very much and then the things that do change quite a lot. I like that article. You can find it on Google just by Googling pace layers for vocabularies. On the same thing, I've got this book here, and I'm going to hold it up for you, Tej, but everyone else will have to hear about it. There's a book called The Clock of the Long Now, Time and Responsibility, and it's by Stuart Brand. So the Long Now project actually put together the pace layers framework, and it can be applied in so many different ways. I've applied it for research, but you can pick it up and be inspired by it as much as I am. Another one I really like, and I'll just give a plug for it because I wrote some stuff in it, is the Research Practice book by Greg Bernstein. There are heaps of people in the field who have written really practical information in this book about how to do it in real life. I think that's fabulous. It's a book you want to have beside you. Another one I really like is a book by Laura Klein, which is called Build Better Products. So I would definitely get into that one if that's helpful. Those are my faves that are sitting by my bedside. So.
Thank you so much, Brigette, for sharing all these wonderful recommendations and great insights on ResearchOps with us. So we are looking forward to host you again in our upcoming episodes. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.